What is up, guys? Jay Diesel here. Wanted to jump in real quick. We are now 1 week into the Mercenaries League, and I wanted to kind of go ahead, show off my character, talk about where I'm at right now, what I've been doing, what I've been finding success with, and go ahead and just kind of break down where my character's at. So, we've had a very good league so far. I am so happy to have a PoE league after over a year. I've been really missing that. Need a good ARPG to, scratch that itch for me. So, going ahead real quick, let's kind of talk about some of the gear. Got a replica Dream Feather. We are going to be armor stacking with this build. We ultimately decided to end up going champion over Jug this league. I played Shield Crush a few times. The most recent 2 or 3 times, I have rolled that character as a Jug. I saw the changes to champion. Thought it'd be fun. We're doing an armor stacker variant. Got a replica Dream Feather, 20% AoE. The implicit is the only one that's relevant for us, given that we aren't actually using this as a weapon. Here is our, Pride and Joy, the Emperor's Vigilance. Went ahead, bought a 29 quality one, influenced it, hit it with an Omen of Fortune. Made sure to go ahead and re-roll the percentile on it. Want to get that as high as possible, so we max out that energy shield and armor. Helmet. Mana reservation, reduced cost of attacks. Got Fractured T1 Intelligence. Got this for like 20C. Hit it with some essences. Hit T1 life. Overall, pretty solid. Replica Dragonflight. Plus 3 level of all Shield Crush gems. This was a really important thing to pick up. We also hit 10% increased RMR. This plus 3 is really important if you've never played Shield Crush before. If you hover Shield Crush, you can see that the scaling is 10 to 15 added physical damage for 15 armor and evasion rating. That is because the gem is level 24. If you take it off and you look at a level 21 version, you get 8 to 12 added fizz. This is a really big difference. So this plus 3, you need to find plus 3 to the level of your Shield Crush from somewhere. It can be through your body armor, it can be through your deck slot, it can be through maybe something creative on the tree or whatever. But whatever you do, hitting level 24 is really important. This used to be level 23. They nerfed it a while ago. Sad. 2 just kind of generic Chaos Res, damage recoup rings with some good life on them. We're using a Magnate. This helps make sure that we keep our flask uptime really high. The flasks are a massive source of damage in this build. That's why we're running a Granite and a Basalt Flask. Lots and lots of armor, which we then scale with our Replica Dream Feather, using to pump up our damage from our Vigilance. Boots. We ended up going for 100% chance to avoid being chilled on our boots. Reason being, we are no longer Jug, so we can have our action speed lowered below base. So taking this in order to avoid being chilled is really nice. Smooths out a lot of just annoying things. Having your action speed lowered is one of the worst things in the game. Leviathan Gauntlets. We used this to get 25% chance to impale. With our tree, we now have 100% chance to impale. Attack speed. We also took increased attack and cast speed while focused. A lot of people don't necessarily love focus. This is a massive DPS increase. You can see the difference here between focused and unfocused. If we actually go ahead and look here, with our attacks per second is 3, we focus up, it's 3.7. Obviously that is a huge DPS increase and definitely worth having. I will eventually be changing these gloves out for the Celestial Brace to get plus 10 fort. The damage is actually fairly comparable, but the difference is that Focus only has about 50% uptime, so it's just better uptime using the Celestial Brace. In terms of my body armor, I actually managed to scoop this for about 10 Divine, with Fractured T1 increased armor and a 6th link and the 8% increased explicit defense modifiers. It was previously crafted. I crafted over it in order to get mana reservation. I got very fortunate, and in 2 or 3 essences I actually hit T1 armor and T1 or T2 increased. I'll probably divine this at some point. I just haven't gotten around to it. So overall, very happy with that. In terms of the gear in our tree, we have a Seething Fury. If you're playing any sort of shield-based skill, this is absolutely mandatory. This is tons of just crit strike chance, crit multi. Can't go wrong with that. We have a Lethal Pride. This particular Lethal Pride, I obviously wanted to get as much fortification as possible. So 1, 2, 3, 4. That was all I was able to get. It also has 1% rage on melee hit, which is fairly important. When we swapped to the Celestial Brace, I couldn't really depend on my gloves in order to give me +1 rage anymore, so I kind of wanted to future-proof against that. We have a Corrupted Blood Jewel with phasing on kill. I do a lot of delving. Phasing is almost mandatory if you're doing delve. It is really dangerous, especially if you're going off in the dark. If you don't have phasing and you're a melee skill especially, you can get stuck in a pack of mobs and die in the darkness. Just generic max life, attack speed jewel, so that's pretty fine. This is also going to be super important if you're playing any sort of shield skill. This is 10% more attack speed with offhand. This is so much attack speed. I actually missed this for a while. I didn't check all of the new rune graphs that were put into the league super carefully. I added this kind of late. Wish I had found it earlier. A lot of power, a lot of free damage. Great thing to have. Additionally, got a Watcher's Eye here. Determination, Pride. Nice little double mod Watcher's Eye. Happy with that. So overall, that's kind of what we have here. And we can go ahead and jump into the PoB here. So taking a look at the PoB, we are currently looking at about 15.6 million damage. This is against Uber Pinnacles. If you want to go down to standard bosses, we're looking at about 52 million. Now, obviously, you know, people can get kind of creative with this. If you want to say that we're not focused, that is totally fine, totally reasonable. You've only got like 50% uptime on this. And I'm not setting rage to max. I'm saying 20. I found 20 rage to be pretty reasonable to hold. If you want to go down even further, you could say like 10 rage. Even so, we are still doing about 40 million damage, and even on Uber Pinnacles, we are still hitting for, 12 million. Obviously not the craziest thing in the world, but pretty solid overall. This build is fairly tanky. You can take a look at our effective hit pool. I do intend to do some Melding of the Flesh shenanigans once I get a Mage Blood in order to kind of bump up our elemental max hit. You have really solid regen in this build. You're regenerating about 400 life a second, and that's on minimum. If you go to average, because we have this particular mastery, that jumps up even more. And now you're talking about over 1,000 life on average per second. Now that's a little disingenuous because the burst isn't always going to come when you need it. So I choose to go by minimum. But even degens are going to have a hard time putting you on the floor. Additionally, we have 10% reduced damage over time when we have at least 20 fort. We always have it. As for our ascendancies, let's jump down here. Nothing too crazy. We're taking the fort ascendancy. This one is just absolutely cracked. I would never leave home without it. A lot of damage. Also gives us a lot of survivability. Unstoppable Hero, we're taking this. We have 30 fortification right now. Hoping to get that up to 40 with the gloves. This is a great source of damage. Also attack speed. Overall, just really nice. We're taking Inspirational. This grabs us a lot of non-curse aura effect, which scales our determination, which scales our armor, which scales our replica dream feather, which scales our damage. And last but not least, worthy foe. This is really nice. This actually fixes the accuracy problem, which is kind of a big deal, given that we're not playing jug anymore, so we don't just get like free 500 whatever accuracy or 250, which kind of allowed us to not have to worry about that too much between that and your precision. Here though, as long as you get your hit chance to like 90-ish%, you're going to hit them, and then you're going to taunt them, and then it's going to be a totally moot point. Overall, really, really happy about this. I guess my cluster real quick, I'll hover that. You got Fuel to Fight and Veteran Defender. Veteran Defender is just good for the attributes, helps kind of smooth things out, and Fuel to Fight is Mana Leech, which you absolutely need. So the other thing I want to go ahead and touch on real quick is, let's go take our look at our skills. Shield Crush, we're doing multi-strike. Obviously, we wish this was Awakened, Impale, Pulverize, Brutality, Melee Fizz. In terms of our defensive stuff, we're running Vol, Molten Shell, Blood Rage, cast when damage taken. Auras, you've got Flesh and Stone, Pride, Determination. This is just, tons more damage. You got a Shield Charge, faster attacks. You have a Blood and Sand just for a little bit of extra damage. Tempest Shield is actually where we get our spell block. We are 75/75 capped, which is really important. The spell block makes you feel so much more survivable. You've got a Precision reserved on life. And you've got Assassin's Mark. So overall, that's just kind of the skills. The last thing I actually want to talk about here is I want to talk about the Merc. The Mercenary is incredibly powerful.
Still here?
This guy is incredibly powerful. Ignore that guy. So my setup for the Mercenary, I know everyone's got their own different stances on what they're doing, is I am actually using an Asenath's Gentle Touch that has vulnerability and enfeeble on hit. I am giving +2 curses with 2 Jodrei's damnings, and a 3rd curse with Windscreen. So doing this, I am able to inflict Vul, Enfeeble, Temp Chains, and I am also able to keep my Assassin's Mark up. So this is a lot of extra damage and survivability that I'm adding to the build. In terms of the other slots, I'm opting to use a Garb of the Ephemeral. I really enjoy this. This prevents action speed being lowered below base values. It also gives me crit immunity, which is a really big deal. Before I had to try to use a combination of Watcher's Eye and a Critical Strike Mastery to try to avoid that, which isn't the end of the world, but I really like this item. Additionally, we got Curse skills have 20% increased skill effect duration, which is really nice for our purposes. In terms of the belt, I actually bought and crafted this. I said I wanted a belt that just had tons of Chaos Res, so that way we could Chaos Res cap this guy. Got a Perkle's Toe. We anointed last rites here. The cursed enemies you kill or destroyed line is completely dead. We have Asenaths. The explosion does still happen. I have checked this. But the enemies cursed by you have 50% reduced life regeneration and cannot recharge E-Shield has actually been very clutch. I really like this. It's just a little bit more consistency. You could obviously anoint with anything else. This isn't the biggest deal in the world. This is just kind of personal preference. And the helmet is 9% increased Fizz damage with some max life, and we stop a little bit of lightning and chaos. As for the rod, we're just, using a Dying Breath. This gives more curse effect, and also nearby enemies gain 18% increased damage. So overall, that's kind of where my character's at. I've been really happy with my character this league. I am going to be pushing for my Mage Blood next. That'll allow me to get into Melding of the Flesh and really kind of push my character further. But yeah, that's everything. If you have any questions or concerns or want to know more about the build, feel free to drop a comment and all that jazz. I might do like an actual build guide video. This is just a brief, I want to touch on the character and talk about him. I hope you guys have a wonderful day and stay safe, stay healthy.